Okay, so here we see what is going to be Asbo number 14 Royal Enfield 500 engine. It's already largely rebuilt. The bottom end's all done with the main bearings and big end and the light and crank rebalanced and so on. The crank is actually one of the lightest I've done so far. It's at 7.5 kilograms all in, as opposed to near a 10 in a standard one, so that should liven things up a little bit. I've just blended this piston in the lathe to match the squish bands that I've got in the cylinder head, and the cylinder head is another first for an Asbo engine, in that it's one of the large ported and big valved big heads with a massive near 1.5 inch intake, ported here because it was the standard size intake. And I've got the squish bands, which I did some time ago, in the cylinder head, there and there. Now the angle they're machined to will correspond to the angle that I've machined on the piston crown, and this is a 40 thou oversize so-called 9:1 piston. When I measure the compression ratio of these in some engines I've already built, they seem to come out slightly less, but they're a very good piston, and it's easy to get 9:1 with a bit of machining of the barrel to shorten it, so they're a good piston to use. So that's where we're at the moment. The engine will be put together with that piston, which hasn't got rings on it at the moment, it's just loosely assembled, and that head. And then in the lathe we've got another piston, the same type, but a larger oversize, ready for machining in the same manner to match the squish band in the cylinder head. So let's get on with it. The actual machining doesn't take very long. It's the setting up, making sure that the angle that I'm cutting on the piston matches exactly the angle that I've already machined the squish band in the cylinder head to. It's critical that they follow the same angle as one another. The squish band work properly. Actually, not a lot of metal needs to come off pistons to get a good squish band, so they lend themselves well to tuning. A few difficult to see there, but I've machined across that part of the crown. That's all flat now. There's no curvature on that. It's completely flat, just like the face of the squish band, which it'll come into close, not quite contact with. That's the corresponding area on the piston. This face and the one on the cylinder head will come up. This will come up to the head, and ideally have about a millimetre gap between it and the corresponding face on the head, going over the top dead centre, and that will give a really good squish effect. And that's really all there is to it.